So what are the most important things in terms of subscription and protecting data is authentication in applications. Authentication is the ability to prove that a person or a system user is the person that they're saying they are. And especially in the 21st century with the advent of newer technologies and sensors, biometric authentication or finding who someone is based on their own human characteristics is rising into prominence. However, a lot of this biometric authentication is physical. It is your retina scans. It is your fingerprints. It is things that people normally, consent to and then give on their sensors to help ease of use into the entry of their applications or their devices. However, now there is a rise of behavioral biometrics, studying uniquely identifiable, measurable patterns in our human activities. And you might be asking, how do they do this? Like, this is like how you walk, how you dance, it's like muscle memory movements. What is a way they could possibly do this that is more seamless than the already existing physical biometric authentication, like your fingerprint scanner on your iPhone? And if a lot of you developers work with JavaScript, kind of the back end um, between most of the web, you guys know that you can actually uh, track people's events or their keystrokes or whether mouse moves or whether they're scrolling. All of these things that are encapsulated in the browser that can change the state of a web page, you can keep track of. And inherently, there's this company called Typing DNA, 18 people based out of Romania that moved to Brooklyn that raised $7 million by Google venture capitalists almost 11 months ago. And what they claim to do, Typing DNA, is they claim to be able to a 99 to 99.9% accuracy identify a user's typing pattern utilizing this JavaScript, key event logger. Um, and actually, not many people are hip to it. It's been 10 months since they got this from Google, and if you actually look at their subscribers, they only got 71 subscribers. They only got 100 views on their hackathon, which they had in September, I think. Or they actually, no, they just streamed this 3 days ago. Um, and so, like, not many developers are actually aware of this technology that can actually take away one of the biggest pains. I know a lot of people who do customer support or work at IT help desk. A majority of those calls have to do with people getting logged out of Duo or losing their phone or actually having trouble verifying they say who they who they say they are, and a lot of vulnerabilities in terms of social engineering tackles this or prods at this vulnerability. And so actually making it in a way that is seamless, and you gotta keep in mind, we're already tracking people's keystrokes, or the ability is already there. Unlike facial recognition or putting a fingerprint scanner in every phone, you don't necessarily need someone's consent. The barrier to consent is way lower. I can just start tracking your keystrokes and then tracking your typing behaviors. People aren't out here complaining or advocating for the rights of of having anonymous browser session IDs. This goes way over their head. They're not aware of this existing technology. So again, this is something that you can implement immediately. And here's their Crunchbase, so you can see the funding they got in total. It's, I think, 8 billion now, and they actually released their unlimited developer API that allows you to verify unlimited users and make unlimited requests. And this is not traditional of APIs. APIs usually have a freemium model where if you have a certain amount of requests, um, like, they won't charge you. But if you exceed this amount, they start charging you, or they have additional functionality based on if you pay. Typing DNA, although it has 99 to 99.9% accuracy that they claim, what this API model is showing the developer community is that they care more about collecting a bunch of users' data and integrating this into as many platforms as possible to make a more accurate system to gain competitive advantage like any or the few companies that are in the field. And so if you actually look at their API, and this is the website typingdna.com, they have this free unlimited API, and let's actually go to the documentation over here. You can already see that they measure they give the option to measure a lot about the user. So if here they have two different types of uh, of authentication that they have, same text or any text, whether you're doing something on a repeated text like a password to get someone's behavior, or you're tracking their general behavior with any text. They also are cognizant of the mobile positions that people traditionally type in both phones, keyboards, and other devices. And so, just like in JavaScript, this is all in JavaScript, you can instantiate a TDNA um, object out of the typing DNA class, and if you go to tDNA dot, here are the methods that would pop up. You can get the person's typing pattern. You can actually add and remove targets like HTML elements, and this is especially useful for forms, or like forms are probably the best example because your username and password box is a form, and that's traditionally where people would want this authentication to go. So you can actually, instead of starting and stopping the whole recording of the keystrokes based on the whole browser session or the whole session you are on that particular web page to be more accurate, you can actually say, nah, we're only going to start logging people's behaviors within a certain form or within an essay box to get more text. That way you can just put it in the password area. You can also get the quality of a typing pattern to see whether it is accurate or usable. And again, the type it returns, whether it's the any text type pattern or the same text. You can also, if you go to the users, you can check people based on their users, and you can actually verify their typing patterns. And one thing that I have to emphasize is this isn't just keeping one updated typing pattern. You can get a lot of typing patterns from an individual user. So this shows that not only can you record based on same text or any text or choose particular parts of a form to authenticate, you can actually save multiple patterns to get an idea of this is a pattern in this mobile position, this is their pattern for this same text, or when this has more vowels, or with you can really save as much typing DNA patterns as possible, showing that again the data that they're collecting is comprehensive and it's unique to them. And so one thing that I want to emphasize, I was looking at competitors in terms of the biometric authentication space, and a lot of them don't actually like BioCatch. A lot of them aren't really doing behavioral biometrics. And the one that I did found, Dion or whatever it's called, they do have a point that says behavioral biometrics, and they show a keyboard, but they don't have an API, and thus theirs is going to be very limited, and their data set isn't going to be as accurate to typing DNAs. And again, we don't know exactly what their accuracy is to begin with, so that's why I think typing DNA has a competitive advantage. And where a lot of people are focusing on physical, this is a way to roll out using the current web infrastructure. Every single person's in the world, I would say, easily their own unique identifier based on the way that they type. And this can be used today. I think they're trying to get developers onto it. Again, they're relatively new, only 700 followers. How do you only have 700 followers, but you got millions by Google, venture capitalists? How is that possible? So to me, this is going to be for a short time, and if you are a developer and you want to have a competitive advantage in terms of your authentication for the ease of use and security that other people use Duo and other applications for, this is a no-brainer, and this is probably very, very easy to use. Maybe later I'll actually do a demo on the implementation of this API, but I would check the hackathon that they had on DevPost because it actually gives implementations of these, and then you can go here and they might have a GitHub link and like that. But again, this is pretty cool technology. pretty pretty scary. Um, and I honestly, I probably don't want to be popularizing this because this is going to be a way for every single person in the world to be tracked. And it's gonna give the rise to messed up developers saying, oh, you could track based on this. Let's see other behaviors that you could track in a way if they protest this that people aren't even hip to. And so, I think this is really cool, but like, be wary of the ethical implications of this.